What's up? I'm Troubleshoot. In this quick video, I'll be showing you how to optimize Far Cry 6 for the best performance. And while you may think this video comes out of nowhere, there's currently a ton of giveaways for Far Cry 6, thanks to Ubisoft, and even I am giving away 2 keys to the game, so if you're interested in winning a key, check the description down below. So with a bunch of new players, there'll be a bunch of people looking for better performance, and this guide's going to give you exactly that. So let's begin. First up, the HD texture pack. I'd recommend that you don't install this for performance reasons unless you have a really powerful graphics card and a 4K monitor at minimum. If you have anything below that, you're probably not going to see the difference anyway, and the performance hit is just not going to be worth it. In my previous video, I showed you the old Ubisoft Connect UI, but as it's changed up quite a bit and this is the new UI, what you need to do is head across to your library, then find Far Cry 6, click on it, and inside of here, manage in the top right, manage my DLC, and in here, you'll be able to install or uninstall the HD texture pack. That's it. Super simple. As I don't have a 4K monitor, I'll leave it uninstalled and we'll fire up the game to get to the in-game optimization. Once again, as I covered this game previously, I'll mainly be running through these options super quickly just to get everyone back up to speed. Head across to Options, followed by Video, and on the Monitor tab, we'll be starting here. Video adapter should be your high-performance GPU, especially important if you're on a laptop. Refresh rate should be pushed all the way to the highest that it can go, which is usually limited by your monitor. Window mode should be full screen, resolution should match your display, and below this, the rest of these options are pretty much your preference. Usually you'll be playing on native, and your resolution native, or at least supported as well. Once we've made these changes on the Quality tab at the very top, I'll make sure that DXR, which is DirectX Ray Tracing, is turned off, and with everything else as is. In fact, let's give it a test on Ultra. Let's see what kind of performance we get in-game, just so we can see exactly what happens. So we'll benchmark, enable the overlay, and we're getting a solid 94-ish FPS at 2K with a 3080 Ti. Of course, it's relatively new hardware, at least relatively to the game, and it's on the upper end, so my FPS numbers may be quite a bit higher than yours, but you should still see a major improvement following the tips in this optimization guide. A few drops here with smoke and other particles, from 100 to about 80, that's what my performance looks like pre-optimization. Let's head back to Video, Quality, and let's run through some things here. So first of all, we'll start with overall graphics quality. Set this relatively to what you think your graphics card can handle. Low, in all honesty, is just a little bit too low. Medium is probably as low as I would go if you can, of course, handle it. However, on higher end systems, I'd recommend starting on high or ultra and working your way down further. For me, I'll be starting on high. The major options here that'll affect your performance the most are environment, so I'll drop this probably by 1 from your overall graphics quality, water as well, shadows, and geometry and vegetation. These 4 ones here are going to give you the biggest impact when it comes to FPS overall in most scenes, so I'd recommend these options are the ones that you should lower at least 1 tick below your overall graphics quality as a good starting point. As long as you're not on medium and working your way down to low, everything should still look really good. Then texture filtering depends on how much VRAM you have, and at least you don't need to estimate. In the bottom left, you can see a VRAM estimator, and as we push this around, you'll see how it changes. Low requires around 5-ish gigabytes of VRAM, and anything above that, around 6 or so. I think Ultra really depends on the 4K texture pack or HD textures, so without it, you're not going to get a huge increase in texture quality and a huge increase in VRAM as long as you don't have that installed. So without the high quality textures, you could probably leave this on Ultra or high on much higher end graphics cards with more VRAM. Then scrolling down, HD textures are of course off for me. Anti-Aliasing I'd recommend leaving off completely unless you really hate these jagged textures, which you can see highlighted on the far right, in which case you can use TAA. However, what I'd recommend is leaving this off completely and instead on the Advanced Settings tab at the very top, disabling VSync of course, then looking down to Fidelity FX FSR and enabling this here, then choosing Ultra Quality or the option furthest to the left for you here. This essentially anti-aliases your entire scene as it's using AI upscaling to get extra image quality at a lower render resolution, meaning better, more stable performance on pretty much all systems. Then, if you don't like how blurry the game suddenly gets, on the Quality tab, scroll all the way down to the bottom and make sure that Fidelity FX CAS is enabled if your system supports it. That's it. With these major options changed, you should immediately see a huge increase in performance and of course how the game looks. For an even bigger bump, if you have DXR, reflections, or shadows enabled, as in ray tracing, having any of these turned on will result in a huge performance impact in a negative direction, so keep both of these off. Motion blur is pretty much your preference. I usually keep this off, as well as camera shake on a minimal, especially if you're someone who's affected by motion sickness, and not to mention poison and drunk effects, but I'll be leaving these on as it adds to the gameplay, and I'm not too sensitive to that kind of thing. That's it. With these minimal changes, you should immediately see a huge increase in performance just by lowering 4 options, choosing upscaling, CAS, and that's it. So let's go ahead and run the benchmark again just to see what kind of performance we get. Once again, I'll open up my FPS overlay. Immediately, we're straight up to 130-ish FPS, which is almost 1.5 times as many, but we'll see how good it gets throughout the rest of this. Remember, I haven't moved from ultra down to low, instead I moved from ultra down to high and lowered just a few options. So overall, the scene quality is practically exactly the same, just we have a huge increase in performance. We're coming back to the same place where we dropped a ton of FPS, and it actually doesn't seem to be losing many at all. The particles seem quite a bit more stabilized, and they don't seem to be doing anything near as much to my performance as you'd expect. And that's it. We're now incredibly stable at over 100 FPS all the way through this benchmark, and of course throughout general gameplay too. Perfect. That's really all that you need to do to get the most performance out of your game. The rest of the options are pretty much entirely your preference, especially when it comes to field of view, etc. While these all may technically affect your performance, I'd recommend setting them to whatever you like and playing the game as is. If you'd like to see my previous optimization guide where I go into a lot more detail, you can find it linked down below, as well as an NVIDIA guide and other things that may get you better performance. Hopefully you found this video useful. Thank you all for watching. Mine has been Troubleshoot, and I'll see you all next time. Ciao.